Adam, you were pretty frank in the post-fight press conference about what happened in the fight. How do you reflect on it this morning?
Not too heavily at the moment. It was a tense fight for both of them. They both knew they'd hit hard enough to hurt the other one. Vladimir was the bigger man, and he made it effective, basically, and he made it difficult for David to get to him in the first half of the fight. And in the second half of the fight, David was saying his legs weren't working. He took one heavy shot that he felt. I think Vladimir took a couple that he felt. But effectively, we always knew that because of the way that David could have won the fight meant going to points was going to make it difficult for him. So at the end of the day, the better man won the fight.
Yeah. I mean, some of the papers are saying, well, could David have done a bit more? Could he have taken a few more risks? He seemed to be trying to initiate attacks. It just was very difficult against that opponent.
Yeah, I think the only thing David could have done more was get completely reckless, and that would have meant he would have got hit much harder, much more often, and that becomes a dangerous thing. Boxing is a sport about hitting and not getting hit, and it's an art of self. At the end of the 11th and the 12th round, he actually half tried doing a few more reckless things, and I said to him before the start of the 12th round, because you're going to have to go for it, make sure you keep taking your head out. But by that stage, Vladimir had his game plan under control, and he won the fight.
Yeah, I mean, at what point in the corner did you think this is not going our way, and there didn't seem an obvious way to change the pattern?
Well, at round 3, 4 and 5, I felt relatively good about the fight because I could see that David was getting closer to him. But I remember thinking, I think it was after round 7 or 8, I can't remember, it was one of those rounds, I'd been asking David to do something for 3 rounds in a row, and he hadn't done it. And I've never been in a he's tried to do it or shown that he's almost done it. And then I realised that he wasn't doing it because he couldn't do it. Whatever the reason, because of his legs or his toe or what Vlad was doing or a combination of all three, but he couldn't do it. And then it became an even more dangerous fight on David's behalf because the only thing he could then do is jump in at him.
Yeah. I mean, we're making a lot about the toe injury, but even without that, wouldn't most of the problems that you faced last night be the same again if David was fully fit? Vladimir talked about the size disadvantages he has, and isn't there quite a lot in that?
No, I'm not making a big issue about the toe. David is, because it's absolutely killing him. Yes, the toe was an issue, but I said last night that wasn't the reason for the loss. The reason for the loss is that Vladimir was the better man on the fight, on the night, and also the fact that he's a much bigger man. He's 4 inches taller and 2.5 stone heavier, and that's a huge advantage. If you had a middleweight of 11.5 stone fighting a guy of 9.5 stone, which is a lightweight, you'd be thinking, that's just not right, it's unfair. And sometimes people take that for granted. And if in the fight, because Vlad was getting his game plan off, people think that David could have done more. That's a bit unfair on David because you've got to look at just how difficult Vlad is. And RTL said last night that was the most exciting Vladimir fight in 4 years. Now, I didn't think it was an exciting fight. I thought it was a tense affair, but not an exciting fight. And that's just how effective he is. And that's against heavyweights. Remember, David Haye's a cruiserweight who actually stepped up into a bigger division because no one else could.
So looking ahead then, I mean, there was some talk about a rematch. I mean, were there really in boxing terms any grounds for a rematch? And bearing in mind what you've just said, is it something you would advise David to go ahead? I mean, would you say, yes, we can build again, and yes, we can take on these big guys, or are you thinking maybe he isn't quite suited to take them on?
I think in a Klitschko boxing sense, there is a reason for a rematch because there's no one else there that can make him have to perform like that and give him and ask him questions. And although he won pretty much every round, he was only winning every round by a very small margin. But my conviction has always been that I don't want David to box after October the 13th. It's not up to me, it's up to him. I won't change my opinion, even when I speak to him about it, which I haven't done yet. I believe that he should walk away by October the 13th. And the other thing as well is that now that Vlad has all the belts, David's a voluntary challenger. He's not in a position where it's 50-50. And to be in that, in a 50-50 scenario, look, we had so many things working against us. I don't know. As a man, I don't know whether he could concede that much ground again. And also, listen, he has a very painful toe, but he gave it his best, and his best on the night just wasn't enough.
Because you're talking about maybe, I don't know, fighting a Chris Arreola, having to work your way back into contention again, and it being all on their terms.
Well, that would be a total U-turn on what he's always been saying. But that's for him.
How would you sum up then? I mean, you're saying you think, I don't know, October the 13th should be then, so maybe this has been the last fight potentially. Is there any mileage in a farewell fight Against someone, you know, without a title at stake, would that mean much to David?
It's up to David. It depends. You know, only David can answer what it means to him. And if it's by October the 13th, then he can stick to his word. But he has a broken toe, and that's going to take quite a few weeks to heal. And I think October the 13th is only, what's that, 12 weeks away, 13 weeks away. It's not a long time. I don't know. Anyway, it's too soon for that.
But to sum up, I mean, it's been a fantastic ride for us all. Cruiserweight champion, heavyweight champion as well. I mean, should we focus on the remarkable achievements that he has done over these past few years?
Well, I've always said, and I've said it many times, you can only assess someone's career when it's all said and done. And if you look now at David's career and you look at when he turned pro and the Lolenga Mock fight and the Carl Thompson defeat, and along the way how everyone was saying he was chinny, he can't fight, and you look at what he's achieved, and last night to be taking clean shots from the biggest puncher in the heavyweight division and not being fazed by them proved that he has the steeliness that was always there, that we always knew was there. Big thank you for Carl Thompson, to Carl Thompson, for helping me with my job, because if Carl hadn't beaten David the way that he had done, then David wouldn't have become the fighter that he did. And resounding success.
And if he did come to you and say, Adam, you know, I really want to go on, I want to carry on, you'd be there for him, wouldn't you? You'd carry on training him?
I'm not going. I can't. He's got to answer that question. I've got to answer him, not you. And he hasn't asked me, so there's no point in me answering that.